Hello math learners, Hassan here. Today let's step into the realm where inequalities take a twist. Two-step inequalities. By the end of this video, you'll master how to solve two-step inequalities. Are you ready? Let's start. So when solving two-step inequalities, the basic strategies remain the same. We isolate the variable and keep the variable's coefficient to be 1. We'll be using the inverse operation to get rid of the terms and coefficients from the variable side. Now, since this is a two-step inequality process, we need to see whether we have grouping symbols or not. If there is no grouping symbol, this is the way we can isolate the variable. We first need to do the inverse operation of addition or subtraction, which will isolate the variable on one side, and then we perform the inverse operation of multiplication or division on both sides to fully isolate the variable. And finally, just like with one-step inequalities, we can check our solution by substituting the value back into the original inequality. If there is a grouping symbol like fraction bar, we need to perform the inverse operation of multiplication or division first. This would get rid of the fraction bar, and then we can use the inverse operation of addition or subtraction to isolate the variable. And just like with one-step inequality, we can check our solution by substituting the value back into the original inequality. Now let's see how we can apply these strategies in the practice problem. So here is the first problem. We have y over -6 plus 7 less than 9. So let's see how we can solve this problem. First, we can write down this inequality. Now we can get rid of this 7 from the left side by using subtraction. If you subtract 7 from both sides, we get y over -6 less than 2. Now we have a division operation between y and -6, so we can multiply both sides by -6. Multiplying by -6, we get y greater than -12. Remember, because we are multiplying by a negative number, we need to reverse this inequality symbol. So our solution is y greater than -12. Now this is how we graph this inequality. We have -12 right here. We just mark this with an open circle because there is no equal sign. And since it's a greater than symbol, so we go all the way to the right. Now let's look at the second problem over here. We have 2v minus 4 greater than or equal to 8. So we first write down this inequality, and then we move this 4 to the right side by adding 4 on both sides. So adding 4, we get 2v greater than or equal to 12. And then to get rid of this 2, we simply divide both sides by 2. So we have v greater than or equal to 6. So our solution is v greater than or equal to 6. To graph this on a number line, we simply mark a closed circle and move all the way to the right. So in this case, we can see that we have a fraction bar right here. So whenever we have fraction bar, I cannot take this 5 out of this fraction bar because we need to get rid of this fraction bar first, because this is a grouping symbol. So the first step is to get rid of this fraction bar. And we can do this by simply multiplying both sides by 25. So multiply both sides by 25. Now we can cancel out this 25. We have b minus 5 greater than -1 times 25, that is -25. Now to get b isolated, I need to get rid of this 5. So add 5 on both sides. We have b greater than -25 plus 5, that is -20. Perfect. Now the difference between number 1 and number 2 is that all the terms in number 2 are not over the fraction bar. So I can see that this one is a separate term than this fraction bar. In this case, we can multiply both sides by the common denominator, or we can just take this one and then get rid of this fraction bar. So let's see how we can solve it in both ways. First, we'll just get rid of this 1. So I'll just subtract 1 from both sides. If we subtract 1, we get x over 16 less than or equal to 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So we have x over 16 less than or equal to negative 1. Now we multiply both sides by 16 to get rid of this fraction bar. So if we multiply both sides by 16, we have x less than or equal to negative 16. Now let's see how you can solve this exact problem by eliminating this fraction bar first. So I have x over 16 plus 1 less than or equal to 0. So I'll just multiply this side by 16 and I'll multiply this side by 16 as well. So 16 times x over 16, I just have x. 16 times 1, that is 16. And on the right side, I have 16 times 0, that is gonna be 0. Now to get this 16 eliminated, I just subtract 16 from both sides. If I subtract 16 from both sides, I have x less than or equal to 0 minus 16 is negative 16. You can see that we can get same answer. We make sure that we multiply by the common denominator. In this case, 1 is a whole number, but this 1 can be written as 1 over 1. So even if we multiply by 16, we get 16 over 1, which is basically 16. Now let's look at this third problem. Here you can see that we have a fraction bar that's covering all the terms. So r minus 9 over 8. So we have r minus 9 over 8 less than negative 3. So multiply both sides by the denominator. So if we multiply by 8, we have r minus 9 less than negative 3 times 8, that is negative 24. Now to get rid of this 9, we just add 9 on both sides. We get r less than negative 24 plus 9, negative 15. Now let's look at this fourth problem right here. Again, you can see that we have a fraction x over 6 minus 9, that is a whole number, less than or equal to negative 11. So first we can get rid of this 9. Since 9 is not part of this fraction, we can simply add 9 on both sides. If we do that, we have x over 6 less than or equal to negative 11 plus 9, that is negative 2. Multiply both sides by 6. We have x less than or equal to negative 12. And there you have it, the mastery of two-step inequalities unveiled. Remember, it's not just an inequality, it's your key to expressing and solving more elaborate numerical relationships. Remember, the key is to isolate the variable by undoing the operations in the reverse order they were applied. Adapt these steps based on the specifics of the inequality you are working with. In our next video, we'll continue our exploration and delve into multi-step inequalities. Okay then, now let's get to study.